So-called sovereign citizens are people who believe in ultimate personal freedom, meaning they think they're not subject to government laws. They don't pay taxes or fines, they drive unregistered cars, and they can be violent. In the United States, domestic anti-government extremists have murdered 32 law enforcement officers, and the Department of Homeland Security now says they're the #1 domestic terrorist threat. Tonight, 7:30 can reveal police intelligence showing that sovereign citizens are also taking root in Australia, with 300 thought to be living in New South Wales alone. James Thomas reports.
I challenge the jurisdiction of the court. You have no jurisdiction.
You're free to leave the court.
No, you are a traitor and a criminal.
Gentleman, take under arrest. Take man under arrest.
No, this is assault.
Gentlemen,
This is
please
assault.
remove him from the courtroom.
This is assault. This is assault.
John Wilson has been at war with the state for 20 years.
Get off my property. You haven't got a warrant. Piss off.
I don't need a warrant, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, you do. You've got to obey the law. Get off my property. Slavery is when you're bound and you have no rights.
John Wilson believes he is a victim of a government conspiracy. However, a domestic terror threat assessment obtained by 7:30 identifies him as an extremist member of the sovereign citizen movement and a potential terror threat to Australia.
How this came to light for New South Wales Police was just examining overseas trends.
The United States Department of Homeland Security designated sovereign citizens as the #1 domestic terrorist threat in America.
Two veterans of our West Memphis, Arkansas Police Department were patrolling the interstate as part of the department's drug interdiction team. They became involved in what seemed to be a routine traffic stop, pulling over a father and son in what looked like a church bus. My men didn't realize who or what they were dealing with. Neither officer made it home. And one of them was my son.
It's been 5.5 years since he was killed, and it was the most devastating event that ever occurred in my life.
Bob Podert is the former chief of the West Memphis Police Department. His son Brandon and police partner Bill Evans were killed by sovereign citizens Jerry and Joe Kane.
So what we're after here is not fighting, it's conquering.
Right.
I don't want to have to kill anybody. But if they keep messing with me, that's what it's going to have to come out.
This is how much hate that sovereigns have for authority and particularly for law enforcement, and we have to understand it or we're going to lose more officers. ISIS is not the #1 threat to Americans. The real problem and the real threat to Americans are the domestic terrorists in our own backyard.
I also need to know if you're...
Sovereign citizens began in 1969 as a right-wing conspiracy movement in the United States. Sovereigns believe the moment you are born, government seeks to enslave you.
When they first get into the sovereign movement, they're happy because they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to have a driver's license. They don't have to have insurance.
You have a license on you?
I do not submit to unlawful inquiry, sir.
The laws don't apply to them, so they're pretty happy about this new freedom that they have from our government.
I am protected by the law.
Do not tell me to shut up!
But when they start having encounters with law enforcement, they realize that's not true. There are boundaries.
You're not going in, sir.
And when they push those limits, violence erupts.
Open your window now, or I'm gonna bust it out! I am asking him for his supervisor. I am asking you for your supervisor.
Self-described anti-government sovereign citizen carrying an assault rifle, tear gas, pepper spray.
That's when troopers say.
Domestic anti-government extremists have murdered 32 police officers in the United States since 1995, the year of the most violent act of terror committed by sovereign citizens, the Oklahoma bombing.
6-story building, and one half of the building is sheared away.
168 people killed. Timothy McVeigh's accessory was Terry Nichols, a person designated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as a sovereign citizen.
Now the FBI says that they're the #1 threat to law enforcement in this country. The #1 threat. And yet 5 years ago we didn't know about them. Australia is facing a very similar scenario that we went through.
Discover your rights. Don't be a victim in the courts.
What is a sovereign citizen?
The word sovereign means the ultimate authority to make and impose laws. That applies to you. If you're a sovereign person, you make the laws for yourself. Yeah, out you go.
John Wilson's path towards sovereign ideology started in the late 90s. He was evicted from his home because he refused to acknowledge the mortgage over his house. Sovereign citizenship now pervades every aspect of his life.
There's never been a court of proper jurisdiction.
Do you believe in paying parking fines, for example?
Not if they're inappropriate, no. Prospective juror.
Mr. Wilson is 73. He says he's been to court at least 200 times.
You know, overseas, people like you are seen as domestic terror threats by the FBI?
No, never. Because terror induces fear. I'm not inducing fear, not at all.
This domestic terror threat assessment obtained by 730 links sovereign citizens to firearms, plans to shoot civilians, kidnap judges and murder sheriff's officers. The document also states that Australian sovereign citizens should be considered a potential terrorist threat.
We're trying to ensure that whatever threat arises in the terrorism arena, that we're actually prepared for.
Australia has not experienced high-impact violence resulting in death or casualties associated with sovereigns overseas, but there are indications of radicalisation.
Paperwork, and that's all I do. I'm not a part of Queensland, thank you, and you know it.
In Queensland, officers are confronted by standard sovereign rhetoric. It's not long before it escalates.
Who is under arrest?
You are, sir.
Who's you?
Yourself is standing right in front of us.
State the name and date of birth of the person you're arresting.
Your name for our systems is Romley Stewart Stover.
The end game is the law applies to everybody.
You've never planned to kill a sheriff officer?
No, you're talking silly now. No way.
Police intelligence reports that at a meeting of sovereign citizens at Blacktown Workers Club in 2011, plans were made to kidnap judicial officials and shoot people residing in premises that an Australian sovereign citizen was evicted from. John Wilson has admitted to organising that meeting. Did you ever plan to shoot the people that occupied your house when you were kicked out?
No, that's silly.
In 1997, Wilson did throw a plastic bag containing yellow liquid at a Supreme Court judge. In 2006, Wilson attempted a citizen's arrest of a Supreme Court judge. And in 2009, Wilson sent a letter to the Police Commissioner. In it, he threatened to burn down the premises he was evicted from.
Yeah, but you say you're not violent. Why would you make such a violent threat?
It's not a violent threat.
It is a violent threat.
No, it's words. Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me.
I hope the Australians are quicker to jump on this than we were here in the United States, because it'll save officers' lives over there. And I'm not only talking about officers, I'm talking about government employees, clerks, court clerks, judges, prosecutors. They all have been attacked over here. It's going to happen there.